I'm the immediate past president of the Southern Utah Homeowners Association, and I'm going to be filling in for Brett Burgess today. Today, our moderator will be Bardell Curtis, who's the CEO of the WCDR, and the timekeeper will be Mike Visser. Mike Visser, WCDR Government Affairs Rep. Thank you. I want to welcome members of the Washington County Board of Realtors and SUBA members via Zoom and Facebook Live. Our organizations have a great relationship and work together to build a better community. We sincerely appreciate those joining us today, and thank you for being an active participant in the political process. Building and selling homes can be hard, but voting in this critical election year is easy. Remember to vote by November 3rd. Voting information can be found at Vote.Utah.Gov. Today, we're going to have announcements from the Southern Utah Homeowners Association for association members first, and then the WCDR president, Chantel Markell, will make announcements for the WCDR members. So our first announcement, the SUBA office is relocating. It has been sold, and we're moving downstairs from our current location at the Coral Canyon Town Center. SUBA will be constructing a new office downtown, and it will be ready in about a year and a half. Keyword there, about, keep that in mind. We're excited. The new office will include a large training room to support our mission to provide important education opportunities to building industry professionals. The SUBA office will be unavailable from October 13th through the 15th as the main office transitions its services to the new temporary location. The new SUBA office will be located at 2303 North Coral Canyon Boulevard, Suite 100A, just downstairs from its current location. So in the same building, just downstairs. SUBA Pack Clay Shoot, Friday, October 30th is coming up. We're excited to hold our second annual SUBA Pack Clay Shoot. This event is sold out, but there are a couple station sponsors still available. So if you're interested, please get a hold of those at the SUBA office and let them know. I'd like to thank all of our sponsors for the Pack Clay Shoot: Jones Paint and Glass, Kaiko Drywall Services, Dominion Energy, Rainbow Star Sign and Banner, and Sun Country Homes. Thank you to those sponsors. Our meeting sponsors today is Zions Bank, and with us today is Mike Whitwer and Chris Parker, and I want to turn a little time over to them to address each of you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mike Whitwer at Zions Bank. I'm a construction and mortgage loan officer at downtown St. George office. I've been lending for about 20 years in Southern Utah. I just want to share three things that set Zions Bank apart that make us a little bit unique and make us the lender of choice. The first item is we do a one-time close. We charge just one set of fees, and that gives you a construction and a mortgage loan. We also do zero origination fee and 0 points, so you can save thousands of loan fees when you build your home. Also, with our one-time close, we guarantee the long-term loan, so you have some peace of mind right from the start of construction. Lastly, with the one-time close, we allow you to lock the rate in before you start construction. So that way you have confidence in knowing what your rate and payment will be right from the beginning of construction. The second thing that is unique to Zions is we do portfolio loans, or in-house loans. A lot of people are cutting back, a lot of lenders are cutting back on jumbo lending. We're actually increasing dramatically in our jumbo loans. Those are loans over 510, and most of them are in-house. Also, management allows us to ask for exceptions to guidelines or rules. For example, you usually have to have a 2-year history if you're self-employed to get a loan. But we've recently approved a self-employed borrower just 2 months newly self-employed, and they were able to get the loan. Also, if their credit score or loan to value aren't quite where they want, we can ask management to help us out a little bit there. Lastly, with our in-house loans, we allow assets for a form of income. So, for example, if you have $1 million IRA or savings account, we can count so much income for qualifying for a loan just by having an asset, and you don't have to go out and get the money out. Lastly, we offer to match or beat our competitors. Management is committed to being the best, and we don't want to lose any business. So next time you are considering buying, building, or refinancing your home, please consider Zions Bank as the lender of choice. And remember that we have 3 things that set us apart: our one-time close, our in-house loans, and we offer to match with the other lenders. I'm going to turn the time over to Chris for a minute.
Thanks, Mike. It's always great to be here with Suba and the Board of Realtors. I'm Chris Parker with Zions Bank. Another product we offer are the Controlled Master Builder Lines of Credit. So Mike works on the mortgages and the one-time closes. I work on the builder lines of credit and even some development loans. These lines of credit can be used for pre-sold homes, spec homes, model homes, and even for short-term lot holds. If you are a builder in growth mode and have a 3-year history that we can verify with tax returns, then maybe we should talk. If you can either reach me at the branch there on the boulevard on the 2nd floor, or you can even call Mike and I can meet you together. Again, thank you, and turn the time back where it's at.
Thank you, guys, and thanks again to Zions Bank for sponsoring today's event. And just want to say that one thing they forgot to mention is that they're both awesome to work with. So I've worked with these guys for a long time. All right, I'd like to remind everybody at home, please go into your chat and register your name and your company name for the chance to win 4 restaurant gift cards. So that's WCDR and Suba members that via Zoom or Facebook Live. Please go to that chat and enter your name and your company name, and you'll be notified if you win. So just want to put that out there. It's now my pleasure to turn the time over to Chantel Markel for the WCDR announcements, and then Bardell Curtis, Executive Officer of the Washington County Board of Realtors, who will moderate this candidate forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a few announcements for the Washington County Board of Realtors members. We have this Thursday is our annual golf tournament. Usually we have that in the spring, but we moved it to October along with everyone else in town. But we do have that at Sunbrook. We have enough teams, but we could still use sponsors. So if anyone wants to sponsor that, that would be great. Our charity this year is Tan's Treats. And then on November, we usually have our National Association of Realtors annual meeting somewhere awesome, and it was going to be in New Orleans, or Nolans, as some of you may know it. But of course, it will be virtual, as everything is, and that will be November 16th through 18th. But that will give a lot of you more opportunity to join us with it being virtual. The committee meetings start November 2nd, but the main meetings go from the 16th through the 18th. And then for our luncheon next month, it will be virtual again, and it will be Craig Morley, an appraiser, that will speak to us during that luncheon, and that's November 19th. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone, and a special welcome to our legislators and candidates for the 2020 election cycle. We are reminded, I think, daily that we're living in 2020, which has created certainly a paradigm shift for many of us. And while I'm not a fan of the term new normal, I have become a fan of the term pivot. And I think that is one thing that we have all had to learn how to do. And so for our Meet the Candidates Forum, we are in fact going to pivot today. I do want to just acknowledge a couple of individuals that have helped make this possible. Certainly, Mari and her staff at the Home Builders have been instrumental in putting this all together for us. This tremendous facility that we're meeting in today is absolutely a jewel in our community, and we're grateful that this has been made available for us to use. There's been a lot of behind the scenes work, and I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that as well. Running the camera today, which is no easy task. It's, in fact, this may embarrass Jenny Miller from ERA, but she was here till 9:30 last night and here early again this morning trying to make sure that we can make this happen in a way that is valuable and beneficial to all who are participating. I would like to acknowledge Chris, who has been the tech support from the home builders in particular, and we'll also recognize Mike Visser. And Mike, would you just wave one of your signs? Mike will become incredibly important as we proceed today, because he's going to help us stay on track and on time. Mike is a member of our Governmental Affairs Committee and a Realtor at Coldwell Banker. Now I'm going to dig my script out here so I don't get too far in the weeds, but I think it's important that we understand, and this is as much for our candidates today, we want to make sure, if you don't already, that you know your audience. And the home builders and the Board of Realtors are two trade associations that represent over 2,000 members that are actively engaged in our community in one way or another. So I guess what I'm suggesting to you is these are individuals that want and need to learn and listen and become more informed as we then go to the polls. This is a non-traditional meet the candidates forum, in that there really will be no questions that are going to be posed to you, but more an opportunity for us to get to know more about you. And we're going to do that in a couple of different phases. The first phase is going to be, if you can do this in 1 minute or less, we want to know who you are. We want to know what your passions are, what your perhaps your career experiences are. We want to know you as an individual. And we're going to start with Commissioner Cox, and then we're going to work our way down the row. Now, I would like to acknowledge a couple of things. Number one, all the candidates were invited to come and participate. There were conflicts for some. We do know that Representative Brad Lass has an engagement up in Cedar City today, which prevented him from being able to be here. We also know that Representative Seegmiller, who he and his wife recently welcomed a new member of their family. Clearly, he is very conscientious and cautious and is social distancing as much to protect his new family. So Travis, I believe, will be joining us via the Zoom meeting. And so at one point, we will reach out and invite him. We'll actually unmute him, and we'll allow him to share some of his thoughts and comments as we go through this process. That 1 minute will be the introduction. Then we'll come back to the beginning with Commissioner Cox, and we're going to allow each candidate 4 minutes. And in that 4 minutes, we want to know your qualifications. Why should we vote for you? And it may not sound like a long time, but 1 minute and 4 minutes may be an eternity when you're sitting there trying to be relevant. So please, well, bear with us as we bear with you, and I think we'll really get some value out of it. And then lastly, after each candidate has been given that opportunity to share their qualifications, we will come back to the beginning of the row again, Commissioner Cox, and we will give you each candidate 1 minute to any final remarks, to ask for the vote, anything else that you may have been prompted to share. That will be your opportunity to do that. Now, you will, for those of you that are participating online, there will be, at the conclusion of our event today, there will be a screen which will list each of these candidates' email addresses. And that is there specifically, if there was something, a question that you would have liked asked, or an answer that you didn't receive today and you wanted to reach out to one of them or all of them independently, we're going to make that opportunity available for you to do that. So, Commissioner Cox, we'll start with you. 1 minute. Mr. Visser will have his sign ready to give you a 15-second countdown, and then a time's up.
Thank you, Vardell, and thank you, Lowry. I really appreciate the Washington County Home Builders and the Washington County Board of Realtors and Southern Utah home builders. They've done a lot of valuable things in our community. I grew up in St. George. I'm one of the few people that could say I was actually, did my kindergarten at the West Elementary. And I did that back in the 50s, so I'm kind of an old duffer. But I've seen a ton of change. I've watched how decisions of elected officials have impacted that change. I graduated from Dixie High School, and Dixie College was the name of it back then. I furthered my education at Brigham Young University. While I was there, I met my lovely wife, Lorraine. And Lorraine and I have 4 children, 11 grandchildren, and we decided we wanted to come back and make St. George our home.
Okay, thank you very much. Representative Snow.
Okay, to take off the map.
Absolutely.
Thank you, and thank you, Southern Utah Home Builders and Board of Realtors for putting this on. It's important that we have these kind of forums to reach out to our constituents and citizens. I've lived in Southern Utah for over 40 years. I'm married to Cheryl Snow, an educator. I'm an attorney. I actually was a founding partner of the law firm Snow Jensen Reeves. Real estate and property law is the building block foundation of my practice. I live in Santa Clara. My legislative district is 74, essentially covers the west part of Washington County. I currently serve in the legislature, have since 2012, chair the House Education Committee, Education Appropriations Committee, and House Judiciary Committee. I've been very active in service beyond my legislative career. I serve on the state board for the Legislative Water Commission. Is that time?
Apparently 1 minute does go pretty quickly.
Sorry. Okay, it does.
Thank you so much. And there will be more opportunities, I promise you. We'd now like to invite Rebecca Sullivan if she would like to share her comments with us.
Thank you for inviting me to this forum. My name is Rebecca Sullivan and I'm running for House District 75. I grew up in Ogden and everybody asked me what high school I went to. It was Bonneville High. Like many people in Ogden, I started my career with IRS Service Center as a GS2. I married, and after having 2 children, I divorced. And then I moved out of state for promotion opportunities. At the time I retired 25 years later, I was a GS14 with 12 administrative judges and 6 auditors reporting to me. I have some time, I see. Anyway, that was my opening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative Brooks.
Thank you for allowing us to be here today. I too grew up here in St. George. I grew up in the house that my great-grandpa built. As Cox knows, is the Warren Cox home. I live there now with my wife and 5 kids. And I went on my mission and came back to Dixie State College, and that's the story. You see this cute, wonderful girl run across campus, and I married her roommate. And we live here and love this place to be a place where we can raise our family. I'm in technology. I have a small software company here in town and enjoy it.
Thank you. So as we create the transition, we first heard from the county commission candidate. Those most recent comments were from candidates for the House of Representatives. And now we'd like to conclude this part of it by hearing from Senate District 29, first from Chuck Goode, please.
Thank you. My name is Chuck Goode. I'm running for Senate District 29. I've lived in Utah for 27 years and had a little peach farm in Tokerville. So
Turn your mic up.
Sorry. My name is Chuck Goode and I'm running for State Senate Seat 29. I've lived in Utah for 27 years. My experience is in farming and run a small business, also computer consulting. And in my career, I was aerospace. So I went to Ogden after the the Challenger space shuttle disaster and redid the dial quality systems, and then went to Houston and was involved in the International Space Station there. I'm very involved in the community here in St. George and was instrumental in starting the St. George Community Soup Kitchen, which now is a part of Switchpoint, and interested in contributing more in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. And Senator Ipson will give you the final remarks of the first session.
Thank you, and I appreciate the home builders and the realtors putting this on. It's a great opportunity to appear before you. It's kind of like appearing before the judge, right? So I was raised in Southern Utah, spent most of my life here. I come to St. George in 1972. There's one traffic light. It presented chaos when there was a fire. But anyway, I married my wife, Joanne. I have 4 sons. I have 10 grandchildren. And I have 4 great-grandchildren. That happens because when you get married after the 8th grade picnic, you're young and still have great-grandchildren. So I'm very proud of them. I'm honored to be here today to present her to you.
Thank you. Now, we do have, and we learn as we go, we do have one candidate who is participating via the Zoom, as I introduced earlier, Travis Seegmiller. And so, Travis, we would like to unmute you on Zoom and give you 1 minute to tell us a little bit about who you are.
Hello, friends. Can you hear from me all right? Maybe give me a thumbs up, Mari, if you can hear from me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. Hey, it's wonderful to be with you here today. Thank you for putting this together, and thanks for all of you for what you do in our communities and for the important roles that you play. I don't purport or I don't think that what we do at the legislature is more important than what you accomplish in the private sector, as you're the ones who are literally building and making possible for our community to grow from the ground up and be built as it does. But nevertheless, I'm grateful for a few minutes to be able to share with you. Not now, just less than 1 minute now, right? A little bit about me. I'm a son of Southern Utah. I was born in Southern Utah. I grew up in Washington City, St. George, and the Washington Fields, the exact places that I represent now. House District 62 includes almost all of Washington City, the Washington Fields portion of St. George. I went to, like Dean did, I'm old enough that I actually went to kindergarten in that old red brick pioneer schoolhouse on Telegraph in Washington. That was Washington Elementary. Then I went to the Woodward School and Dixie Middle School and graduated from Pineview High School.
Okay. Time is up.
By trade, I am an attorney, but by profession and career, I've been a professor of the Constitution for 20 years now. I'm starting my 20th year, where I've been teaching the Constitution to people of all ages.
Travis,
yep.
Your time is up. I'm sorry.
Okay, I apologize. Great. Thanks, everybody.
See, we're learning as we go. So that first introductory by the candidates really is important because they might be in the legislative session for 45 days, but I assure you they are engaged the entire year. And it's highly probable that we're going to see them in the grocery stores and at the ballparks and other places. So to me, I think it's just critically important that we know who you are as well as what your qualifications are. But that leads us now to the next point, and we are going to give you a little bit more time to express yourself. Again, I would remind the candidates of the audience and the issues that are important to us, maybe things that you will want to address as you share the next 4 minutes of your opportunity to address us. And they're going to be things like the Lake Powell Pipeline, the Northern Corridor, attainable, affordable workforce, whatever the word of the day is for housing in our communities, and certainly public and private property rights. So if any of those resonate with you as you prepare to share your remarks with us, we would love to know your position. We'll start first with Commissioner Cox.
Thank you. This is awesome to be able to be here and participate in this today. And we're already finding out that if you put a nickel in a politician, you have a hard time getting it back out. And so I'll pay attention to Mike and his signs. The best way to define me is I am a person who is devoted to service. And service has defined my life. I got a pilot's license when I was 18, and I became a ham radio operator when I was 16. I was actually key in to things that have impacted my career. When I came back from BYU, I wanted to participate in the county, and ham radio seemed like a great way to do that. They have emergencies, and these ham operators do these communications things. And so I volunteered with the sheriff to maintain his repeater system, which is a set of radios on mountaintops that allow him to communicate over the full length and width of the county. I was qualified to do that because I picked up a broadcast engineering license at a very young age. And I wanted to get involved in search and rescue, and so I participated in that. After the Quill Dike failed, I was asked if I would be the emergency services coordinator for the county, and I said, sure, I'll do it for nothing. And they said, no, we'll pay you $200 a month. And it was still a labor of love. And I loved the relationships I made with all of our law enforcement and fire and EMS people. In 2003, the county asked me to go full-time. I've been running a business, and I ran that business on Bluff Street. It was Colorland Sales and Service for 33 years. But I went to work full-time for the county and found that I was extremely very busy. I would find myself appointed to different boards, and it just didn't seem like there wasn't a board that I served on that I didn't end up chairing. I wrote grants and drove the initiatives to bring computers into our police cars, to put all of our law enforcement people and prosecutors on a common computer system so that they could track crimes across municipal boundaries and jurisdictions, made it much more effective. I thought I was doing great. I went on vacation to China with my wife in 2008. And while I was there, I found out the county commission decided they wanted to make me the county administrator. And so I started working as county administrator, and I did that until 2016. In 2016, Alan Gardner decided he would retire, and I made the mistake of riding with him to go to a meeting in Salt Lake, and he twisted my tail and said, you should run for the county commission. I ran. It was a great race. It was a clean race, and I was lucky enough to prevail in that. Since then, I now serve on the Utah Communications Authority, which I represent all of the counties. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to be fast. But to distill this down, I bring experience and collaboration. I am a bridge builder, and I have done amazing things with getting our northern corridor, something that has been a goal for many, many years, 25 years to be precise. I think we'll get a positive record of decision on that this year. I'm excited about the possibilities moving forward. My name is Dean Cox.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'd now like to give Representative Lowry, she's now representing District 74, an opportunity to share with us his qualifications.
Thank you. I spoke a little bit about my qualifications in terms of my service. Let me tell you what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about service, like my friend Dean, but I'm also passionate about service that brings about good things for the citizens of the state of Utah and good things for the citizens of this county. When I decided to run for this office, I did so because I told my wife, family, friends, and my colleagues that Washington County needed a strong voice and a strong advocate. And that's what I've tried to be, and I believe that's what I've done. For example, for Washington County, I helped facilitate the repurposing and transferring ownership of a significant asset that was owned by the state of Utah to Washington County to help support our criminal justice reform here and to support families and individuals. I sponsored legislation that created 2 new judgeships here in Washington County and Iron County so that we have access to courts. One thing that may be of interest to you, I helped sponsor legislation protecting water rights, facilitating transfer of ownership of property, and one that you may find interesting is real estate agents. There are 2 counties in our state, Washington and Summit County, that have the largest number of second homes. I sponsored legislation when those homes were moved from second home ownership into private ownership. If it happened the first part of the year for a family, they could actually get a reduction of their taxes and qualify for a primary residence. Let me just speak a little bit about our economy in Utah. Utah leads the nation, actually, especially coming out of COVID crisis and even before, in a strong economy. I support that, and I recognize that small businesses, things that you're involved with, are supporting our economy. I support small business. I support reducing regulation. I support having a balanced budget in our state and being careful about how we spend your resources. Couple of comments about growth in Southern Utah. One thing that I've learned in my work in the legislature is Utah is growing rapidly, and Washington County is one of the epicenters of that growth. As a leader, we have to recognize that growth is going to come. Population is going to increase. Our challenge is not to stop population growth, but to plan for it. I support the Northern Corridor. I've written and advocated on behalf of that. I support the Lake Powell Pipeline. Why? Because leadership means getting in front of that growth, getting in front of challenges and planning for that growth. I support also affordable housing to the extent that it can be accomplished. I believe still in the American dream, that every family and every individual that wants to own a home should be able to. I support the work that you do as home builders and as real estate agents, because you are at the foundation of private property rights and having the American dream. It is fundamental to the exercise of our rights in a democracy and republic to honor the principles of private property and protect them. I support those developers who work hard to try to find a way to provide affordable housing for our community and for those who don't always have the same resources that other people. Lastly, let me just say, it's a real honor to serve. It comes somewhat late in my career. I take it serious. I vote, I show up, I advocate for Southern Utah and for the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Snow. It'll now be our privilege to hear again from Rebecca Sullivan, who is a candidate for District 75 House.
Hi, everyone. Hey, this is the first time I've run for office. Now, what would make a senior woman decide to run for office? And I'll tell you what it was. We do not get what we vote for. I've lived in 3 other states, and when I came to Utah, all of a sudden, when we're voting in our propositions, they get changed. Why is that? All the other states that I've lived in, when the voters voted in a proposition, the legislators made it happen. Here they don't. So I decided I'd do some research on this. Why can this happen in our state? Well, number one, I went back to the Utah State Constitution, and I found that Utah is one of the 11 states, that has in the Constitution the provision that the state legislatures can overturn voter propositions with a simple majority of the vote. And they do. In this state, our registered Republicans are 47% of the electorate, and yet they hold 78% of the positions. Since they have the supermajority, they can do anything they want, and they do. We have Proposition 5 coming up in 2021 after the 2020 census is completed. Now, it's going to see whether or not we're going to draw our redistricting lines. The independent commission will present itself to a board of 4 Republicans and 3 Democrats. They can either accept the commission's recommendations in full, they can change it, or they can repeal it. Why, after gerrymandering themselves into the supermajority, would they ever want to lose control, especially after taking 30 years of perfecting these districts? I do not believe they will, simply because I'm looking at Proposition 2 and 3. There's a way that we can actually resolve this, 2 ways. One way is to vote them out. The other way is to amend our state constitution to eliminate this provision. And so I have to tell you, it's not so hard to amend our state constitution. We have already done it 17 times since 2006. So this is not an unreasonable request. Also on the upcoming ballot, I think there's a proposal of 7 more amendments to be made. Now, another thing that I'd like to talk about is our education. In Utah, our schools are number 51 in the United States, when you count the District of Columbia, with regards to funding per student. Our schools are number 51 in the United States when it comes to class size. We've got more students per class than any other school district. Why is this? We are chronically underfunded, and I look at that as due to our tax system at this point. We have a 5% flat tax rate. This should be changed to a progressive tax rate where we can bring in more funding, less taxes for the lower and middle income people, and be able to fund our schools. And I just got a notice in here, so I thank you for listening to what I propose.
Thank you very much. We'll now have the opportunity to hear from Representative Walt Brooks, representing District 75.
Thank you. I often ask myself what makes me qualified to be here too. Because I look at people that I serve with and I'm just amazed by their experience, their understanding. And honestly, what it boils down to is I appreciate the Constitution and the rule of law. We have rights and we have a process that we go through to ensure those rights. I know that government doesn't create wealth. We do as individuals create wealth. And so removing as much regulation, tax burden off the people is what generates a happy and successful and healthy society. The more that we can do that, the better off we'll be. And so I support all the legislation that comes forward to reduce regulation, to increase our individual rights to use our property the way we wish to, because I really believe that's what this country was founded on. We're here to live our lives the best we know how, whether it's freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of whatever. That's what we get to do. And the reason we have a republic is because we want to make sure that the next person's rights are also supported. And that's why we go through this process. And we can't forget the process while doing so. So I support the Northern Corridor. I grew up here. It was a tiny town, maybe not as tiny as when Dean was here, but I went to West Elementary too. I support the Lake Powell Pipeline. And it took me a while to get to that, but I do support it 100%. And the reason is how many of you here were before Well Creek? I was, but most people aren't. And my dad, a school teacher with 8 kids, had a tax increase to pay for that dam, so 4 people could move here and use their land in which they wish they could. He wanted me to be able to live here, and I'm able to because we have a water source. And I played a lot in the River growing up, and it is not reliable enough to support the people that St. George can handle. You know, I loved St. George when I was little. I loved it. I rode around doing political papers with my 22. You can see that today, there'd be some problems. But it was a lot of fun, and it was a great place to be. And I want to make sure that we can have that same type of joy when people want to come here and move. Who am I to say that you can't come here because now I get pulled to that? I don't think that's government's role. Government's role is to ensure that you have the rights to do things that you want to do. I'm very, very grateful. I come from a family of educators, and that's one thing that I'm very into, making sure that we get funded properly. And I was amazed. Do you know if we took every single dime of your tax dollar, every single gas tax, every single property tax, every single everything tax, we'd be 22nd in the nation in funding. There's a reason why we're low in funding education, is because we have 1,000 kids. I have 5 of them, so thank you for contributing to my kids' education. We value education because we know when kids are educated, they contribute to society. They don't take away from it. I'm looking forward to my son. He wants to be a physician. My daughter wants to be an educator. My littler daughter wants to be a pediatrician. I'm excited for their opportunities, and the education system that allows them to do that, because we as a whole value certain things, and education is one of those things that we value, so we contribute to it. I appreciate the time to be here. I appreciate the efforts to be able to go to Salt Lake, and as Vardell said, all through the year to study these items to make sure, are we making good decisions? Or do we have good data? Are we using good discernment to really see what the problem is and how do we accomplish it? Because what I think best is may not be what the next person wants in their life. So how can we make sure those rules and regulations are followed and they're given to us through the Bill of Rights? Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Brooks. Now we are privileged to hear from a candidate for District 29, Chuck Goode.
Thank you. I would like to ask you to vote for me for a number of reasons, because I want to advocate for some things that are happening and changing. By far, the number one issue we all have is the pandemic. COVID-19 is getting worse. It's actually increased just yesterday. The only way we're going to deal with this issue is by a mask mandate, and I would advocate for that. I think it is the only way to actually address this problem and shut it down. The economy is chafing at the bit to come back. We have a great economy, but we can't gather face to face. You can't go to a football game. You can't go to the movies anymore. So I would attack that problem and solve it instead of letting it drag on and actually increase. What we've learned from COVID-19 is that technology has made a huge difference in our lives. If you can't be face to face, then how do you visit the doctor with telemed? How do you go to school now with teleeducation? How do you even work? You work from home. This technology has changed our lives. And what we require in this pivot is to have people educated to take advantage of that new technology and the new jobs that are there. If you care about jobs, vote for me. Education is the way to get those jobs. I agree with the comments before that say this is one of the most important things we can do. Education requires some technology that, as a state, we need to roll out. I would very much support broadband for rural areas, for all of the state. I would very much support electric automobiles, which are the problems to our air in Salt Lake, but it would help down here too, as well as solar panels. These are things that solve some of our energy problems. I'm going to skip over taxes. I think Rebecca covered that very well, the way we fund our education. And by the way, I know we have a lot of kids, but Utah is mediocre. We're middle of the road, and we used to be excellent. We used to be the top. If we defeat this Initiative G and increase taxes for education through a fair tax plan, we should be able to supply teacher resources. We should be able to do universal pre-K. We should be able to do free community college. All the things we need to adopt this technology so that Utah can continue to thrive. Our infrastructure that we provide would actually solve another big problem the legislature's been dealing with, and it's a difficult problem. I'm not trying to make this sound simple. They've tried twice to restructure taxes, and both have failed. What I would propose is that we increase the online sales tax. Our local businesses have spent tons of money to digitize. They all have to be able to deliver. They all have to have this presence on the internet to keep their business going. They need a break. I would actually cut sales tax for local business and property tax as well if we get the right schools going. Lastly, I would ask you to vote for me if you care about people. I'm very involved in, like I said before, the community soup kitchen. But I now have a coalition to try to remove the homeless kids. 700 to 1,200 kids in Washington County School District are homeless. They don't know where they're going to sleep tonight. They go there to get their breakfast. My talent is coalitions, being able to get these people together and solve problems. I ask for your vote.
Thank you. And now we'll hear from Senator Don Ipson, again representing District 29.
Thank you. First of all, I'm very honored to have been able to serve the legislature for the past 12 years, the last 4 years in the Senate. I think we've accomplished some great things. We've got some real challenges. The Lake Powell Pipeline, we're under siege right now from the surrounding states. They're trying to do everything they can collaboratively to make it so that we don't have and can't exercise our water rights that was granted to us by the Colorado River Compact. That's ridiculous. And it's a stall tactic, and we're working hard to mount a defense to that. But that's the latest thing that's come of that, and I'm very passionate about the Lake Powell Pipeline. You know, property rights. One of the business units that we have is a commercial real estate development arm of our company, and it frustrates me to go into some of these cities, states, and what we have to go through to develop our own property, to make improvements, to make simple improvements. It's harmful. And I can tell you that Utah, in our area, I think we're pretty blessed with some pretty reasonable people to help us get through that. The Northern Corridor, we've got to have that to compensate and then help us with the travel. The traffic is just, I went across town the other day at 4:30 and I'm frustrated to death. It didn't seem like a matter where I went. It was 2 or 3 light changes to get through. And so it just makes it paramount that we have got to develop the ability to move our traffic and do a better job of it. You know, I serve as Vice Chair of Executive Appropriations in the Senate. And I see this taxing thing firsthand. I hear the talk about we're number 50, 51 in the states for pupil spending. What I will tell you is we're probably the highest percentage of our state revenues is paid to education, period. And I think I take my hat off to our school teachers for the incredible job that they do. They educate our children with large classroom sizes. This epidemic has made it harder, more complicated, but they've adapted to that, and I take my hat off to them. But I can tell you that as we work together, I'm a businessman. I understand what it takes to taxes to make it friendly for businesses. We understand that, and then we work hard in the legislature. There's a lot of talk about initiatives and how the legislature changed that. You know, when you take an initiative and you run it for a vote, it doesn't have the ability to be debated and carried on like we do in normal laws. The other thing I will tell you is not one of those initiatives that we changed passed in Washington County. We were not, as a county, our citizens were not in favor of that. I don't apologize for making those adjustments.
Thank you, Senator. We are now going to pivot again. This time we're going to go back to Travis Seegmiller, who is joining us via Zoom. If we could unmute Travis. And Travis clearly does not have the benefit of seeing Mike and the timekeeper. So Travis, we'll try to help you know as the time is expiring, but you now have 4 minutes, please.
Thank you so much. Hey, and thank you to everyone in House District 62 who has supported me in the past. I've enjoyed broad-based support from both sides of the aisle. And I'm appreciative of that. That really empowers me to be able to go do what you want me to do. And I'm grateful for that. Thank you. I just wanted to share briefly with you about my values and the way that I think they intertwine with your values, so that we can see how we're on the same page. And in so doing, I think I'll take a step back and put my professor hat on. I've been a professor for about 20 years now, just wrapping up 8 years at Dixie State, and over a decade before that at Georgetown University, and teaching the Constitution. And so I think if I have a brand or something that I'm known for being super committed to, it's our Constitution. I've been given the label constitutional conservative or caring constitutional conservative many times. But let me put on my professor hat. Instead of giving you a quiz, which I would do if we had a few 10 minutes instead of 4 minutes, because that would be fun for us to engage that way. Let me instead just give you the answers to the quiz. And these are some of the more esoteric philosophy of the Constitution about why I believe the way that I do. First, let me mention what I'm speaking about is the big three of natural rights. Natural rights mean inalienable rights, rights that are given to us by God. Or through, if you don't believe in God, given to us by our very nature. Now, our founding fathers and founders relied on some theorists, one of whom was this philosopher named John Locke back in the 1600s. John Locke came up with the big three trifecta called life, liberty, and property. All right? Third one is property. And then when Thomas Jefferson, almost 100 years later, was drafting our Declaration of Independence, he switched it. He put life, liberty, and what? The pursuit of happiness, right? So he dropped property, and he put in the Declaration of Independence for our country, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And this very important concept of individual property rights and all the bundle of rights that entails, which you're so well aware of when you think of a rep sheet that you have to fill out, or all the work you have to do just to build. There's this whole bundle of rights. Well, then when the father of the Constitution, James Madison, and also even in our Utah Constitution, when our constitutions came together, finally they restored that natural law trifecta, those inalienable God-given rights of life, liberty, and property. So those property rights came back, and now they're enshrined in our Utah Constitution, and also in our federal Constitution, of course, the U.S. Constitution in the Fifth Amendment and the 14th Amendment. The Fifth Amendment and 14th Amendments is where we get our due process rights, where our property can't be taken away without due process. And then also the takings clause in the Fifth Amendment, a horrible clause in my opinion, one that allows the government to take away personal property if they pay just compensation, it's for a public purpose. But so if you understand where my heart and brain comes from, I absolutely believe in and fully support those individual rights. And that third one in the trifecta of individual property rights is the linchpin upon which we build our economy. And I can guarantee you that I will continue to be 150% totally committed to fighting for your constitutional rights, especially in this case, those personal property rights, which is so important to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Seegmiller, and thank you for participating remotely with us today. We are going to begin the final phase of our Meet the Candidates Forum today. We have invited each candidate to take 1 minute. We're going to be a little bit flexible here if we need to be, but we're going to let everyone have that opportunity to provide any closing remarks and hopefully ask for our vote. Commissioner Cox.
Thank you, Bardell. I have spent and focused the past 4 years of my first term as an elected official in working on something that every realtor and every home builder, and that is the renewal of our habitat conservation plan. I tied with that the northern corridor because they're intrinsically linked. The reason we're talking about a northern corridor today is because I took the initiative to fold that in to that HCP renewal process, a process that had been languishing. before the end of this year or in the first week of this year, I expect a record of decision that will renew our HCP. That's important because it allows us to build and grow in Washington County. And I expect an affirmative record of decision on the Northern Corridor. Washington County is an amazing place to live, work, and raise a family. I dedicate myself to that goal and that endeavor. Please vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cox. Representative Snow.
Thank you, Ardell, and thank you again, Southern Utah Home Builders and Washington County Board for allowing us this opportunity. Let me say, I know how to be an advocate. That's what I do in my career. I've been an advocate on your behalf. I want to continue in that same vein. I hope you will elect me to allow me to continue to represent your interests in Washington County at the Capitol. I'm not afraid of growth. I'm an optimist. I'm not afraid of growth because I know that good people can come together and plan for it so that there is sufficient infrastructure, so there is sufficient space, and there is an abundance if we provide the proper planning. I'm hoping that you will continue to support me in my efforts to plan for the growth, not just for Washington County, but for our state. I need your vote. I need to be able to return to the State House and be your advocate. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Snow. And now we'd love to hear from candidate Rebecca Sullivan.
Thank you for inviting me here today. I really appreciate it and stating a couple of my views. I want you to know I am a candidate for change here. I ask you for your vote, and I ask you also to please visit my website at RebeccaSullivanCampaign.com. Oh, you have to put www before that or it won't go there. But thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Representative Brooks.
Thank you. One thing that I've always been impressed with the people I meet is how smart people are and how they make good decisions. I know Rebecca, we grew up in the same neighborhood, or we live in the same neighborhood. She's smart, she's nice, she's competent. And I know that people will do the research to see what she stands for, what I stand for, and vote for the person that represents you. That's what we're supposed to do, is represent you. You know who I am. My website is Vote.Utah.Gov. You can go see who we are and what we stand for. And I trust the people who make the decision that represents them best. And if I'm the person that does that, I'm committed to make sure we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Goode.
Thank you for letting us come here tonight. I have a great respect for everyone on this stage. I agree with Walt about the quality of these people. I, for that reason, could work with them. I think that the system has divided us because the Democratic Party does not have the right answer or the right ideology, and the Republican Party doesn't either. Neither of them have the solution. But the combination of those, as many of us have mentioned, is the solution. We need to work together. We have a disconnect in our republic between what the legislature wants and what the people want. One of my heroes is Senator Paul Wellstone. When someone asked him what politics is, he said, politics is not about money. Politics is not even about winning. Politics is about improving people's lives. That's what I want to do as your senator. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Ipson.
Thank you. I want to thank you guys for having us here today, and I'm honored to represent you as your state senator. I would love to have your vote again. I'm close in leadership along with Brad Last. He's the chair of executive appropriations in the House. I'm the vice chair in the Senate. And that goes a long ways to help what we need in this state and this end of the state. I believe that I've been a person that's represented you well and share your business interests. I'm honored, and I would be honored to have your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And now if we can unmute Representative Seegmiller, we'll give him his final remarks.
Thanks, friends. I ask for your vote. Those of you who've supported me in the past, I thank you for that. And those of you who are still thinking about it, let me state, first of all, I do have a challenger. Some people don't know that. I do have an opponent, and he's a great guy. But if the following values that I share with you, these are my top policy priorities. If they sing to your heart in any way, I hope you'll support me, because that means that I'll be the right person for the job to represent you and your family. I call them my 3 F's, my top policy priorities, and my 3 F's. The first one is freedom. The second one is family and family values. And the third one is about finances of the state, or fiscal frugality. Freedom means fighting for our Constitution at every turn, no matter how great the sacrifice is required. Family and family values means fighting for our families and for our children. One initiative
15 seconds.
now is to keep our children safe. And the last one is fiscal frugality, to shrink government spending, shrink debt, and shrink taxes. And if that's what if any of those things sing to your heart, please vote for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, as we prepare to wrap up, there have been some comments come through Zoom. I think one was a request for each of the candidates, if they would please pick up their sign in front of them, and then Jenny's going to walk along the front. Those that are participating via Zoom would like to be able to put a face with a name. So if you wouldn't mind just picking up your signs as Jenny walks along, and we'll just include that as part of our presentation. This is not reminiscent of being arrested. This is totally different.
Maybe hold them just a little lower. There we go. I think it is.
All right. Chris, was that what they were asking for, though? Okay. Well.
Yeah. Maybe angle it down. There you go. There. Perfect.
All right. Again, before I turn the time back over to Seth, let me just again remind everyone who participated today, either via Zoom or Facebook, or here in the auditorium with us today. This is a small part of the election process. There are a number of other things that we as voters need to become educated on. There will be many other things, initiatives on the ballot, judges who will have the opportunity to vote to retain or not. I mean, there's just so much involved. And then that's just one part of the process. I would encourage and invite us all to become more engaged in the communities that we reside in, whether it's voting, which is significantly important, register to vote, and then actually go and let your voice be heard. But so many other opportunities to serve in the communities that we live in. That's what makes Southern Utah so great. That's why we're here. That's why others want to come and join us. So again, thank you to the home builders. Thank you to the realtors to all combine their efforts to work together for this effort. And I would like to turn the time back over now to Seth Foster.
All right, just want to thank Bardell. Bardell, thank you for moderating, and especially want to thank all of the candidates for being here today, for sharing your views, sharing your vision with all of our members, and for being here today. We know how important it is to each of our members and to you, and so we appreciate you being here. Also want to thank all of the members that are here today participating through Zoom and also Facebook Live. Thank you for being engaged in this process. It's very important and I believe critical for our county and state and even our country moving forward. So again, I would just like to remind everybody to go to Vote.Utah.Gov for any questions and regarding being able to vote and being able to participate. So also want to thank Dixie Tech for the facilities that we were able to be in here today and be able to have this forum. So thank you all. Don't want to forget everybody that's participating via Zoom, please make sure you enter your name and company name in the chat for the opportunity to win 4 restaurant gift cards. And again, we will contact you if you do win. As far as for SUBA, our next meeting will be held on Tuesday, November 3rd at 11 a.m. It will be a meet and greet and grab and go lunch, a little different, kind of like the pivot that Bardell talks about. So stop by the Veterans Park in Washington, pick up your lunchbox, say hi to the SUBA staff and other SUBA members. Watch your email for more details. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank the candidates for taking the time, and everybody have a great day.